I am joined today by lawyer and author Alan Dershowitz to help me better understand this Jeffrey Epstein thing that doesn't seem to want to go away. Alan, thank you so much for joining me again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
A personal question. You represented Jeffrey Epstein as a lawyer in the past. You represented Donald Trump as a lawyer in the past. Which of those names lost you more friends?
Well, it's a close question. I think Trump, on Martha's Vineyard, without a doubt, Trump lost me more friends. As soon as I represented Trump, I was banned. My books were not sold at the book fair. I couldn't speak in the local Reform synagogue. I wasn't invited to the community center. The library banned me. I was basically treated the way communists were treated by Joseph McCarthy, except worse, because the McCarthyism didn't go after the children. They've gone after my children and grandchildren. My wife has been victimized. My granddaughter has been victimized. My daughter has been victimized. People say, oh, you're related to Alan Dershowitz. He defended Trump. We don't want to have anything to do with you. And, I have grandchildren and children who are professionals, and it has affected their careers as it has affected my life. My wife walked into a gym one day, and one of the women who was in the gym walked out and said, I can't be in the same gym as Alan Dershowitz's wife. I've represented O.J. Simpson. I represented Klaus von Bülow. I represented Bill Clinton. I represented Bill Clinton. I represented Ted Kennedy on a murder charge. And there was never any problem with that. But Donald Trump, that was the end of the world. It was as if I was not only representing Adolf Hitler, but I was actually supporting his policies. I'm not even a Republican. I mean, when at the time I defended him on the floor of the Senate, I had voted against him, but that didn't matter to people. They were engaging in the worst form of McCarthyism, basically since even before McCarthyism. This is worse than the actual McCarthyism.
Wow. I had a feeling that might be your answer, which is just so sad. Okay, help me clarify something. You mentioned on the Sean Spicer show that there is an Epstein list.
Yeah.
On the Chris Cuomo show, you said there isn't a list that Trump or Bondi could get, even if they wanted to, but there is a list of victims, accusers, and accused in the Southern District of New York. Help me clarify this, and why can't Pam Bondi easily access those?
Well, the judge has sealed them, but the judge has sealed much of the material claiming that they want to protect the victims. But let me tell you two stories. One is a woman called Sarah Ransom. She claims to be a victim. She wrote 50 emails to Maureen Callahan, who is a journalist on the New York Post, saying she has in her possession videotapes of Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. This was in the run-up to the 2016 election. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, you name it, Richard Branson, all having sex with children. She says she has the videotapes. She sent copies to Russia to protect. So they did a research and found out. She, of course, made up the whole story, and ultimately she admitted. So if you release just the accusations, you're going to get accusations, but no full response. The same thing is true as a woman named Maria Farmer, who has been featured on CNN, quoted in the New York Times. This is a woman who has made up stories about things that she couldn't have seen because they occurred years after she left the Epstein situation. And this is a woman who has denied the Holocaust, said that Jews killed Germans, Germans didn't kill Jews. She is a supporter of the protocols of the Elders of Zion. She hates anybody who's Jewish, and yet her name, she has accused people. And so you can't just have a list of the accused people without also having a list of the people who were accusers and why you shouldn't believe them. There's a list out there that includes Shimon Peres, the former prime minister of Israel, the other former prime minister, Ehud Barak, prominent Jewish philanthropists. Anti-Semitic lists have been proposed out there. It's easy to make a list. There is no Jeffrey Epstein lists. All there is interviews by the FBI, which they didn't believe. The FBI did not credit these interviews, but they have the list of names, and the names have been redacted, but I know they are because I've done my own investigation. And for example, On one of the lists, there is the name of George Mitchell, the former majority leader of the Senate, Bill Richardson, the former ambassador to the UN. Those names are on a list, but are the allegations credible? Well, we don't know, and therefore we shouldn't be just protecting the alleged victims, because some of these victims are perpetrators. For example, Sarah Ransom and Maria Farmer are criminals. They're perjurers. They ought to be in jail. They're not victims. There are other groups that are victims and also perpetrators. That is, they were victims, but then they helped Jeffrey Epstein solicit 15 and 16-year-old girls. So they were criminals. Some of them were victims, but they lied about who had sex with them. So it's a very complicated mixed picture. And the only way to get to the bottom of it is by giving immunity and some deal with Galilea Maxwell, because she has all the travel documents. She knows who was on the island. She knows who may have been on the plane with young people. For example, Bill Clinton was on the plane, so was Donald Trump, but not with any young person. But there are people who may have been on the plane with 15 or 16-year-olds, and those are people who should be looked into to see if they did anything improper.
Okay. You brought up the Clintons. I saw that there is a congressional committee that has voted to subpoena Bill and Hillary to come in and testify as to what they know. Do you think that's going to be a nothing burger? Are they just going to plead the fifth? What is that worth our time?
Nobody's pleading the fifth. Hillary doesn't know anything. That's just a made up story. Bill, I know, knew Jeffrey Epstein. How do I know that? This is a name dropping story. I was invited to have dinner with Bill Clinton by Caroline Kennedy on the Vineyard, a couple of miles away from my house. We were having dinner, and the phone rings, and the Secret Service brings the phone over to President Clinton. He talks on the phone 15 minutes, then hands the phone to me and says someone wants to say hello, and it was Jeffrey Epstein he had been talking to. So I know for a fact. I also know for a fact that Donald Trump had connections with Jeffrey Epstein, but neither of them did anything wrong. There's no evidence to suggest any improprieties by either of them or by most of the people whose names are on the list. So we have to be careful to distinguish between the people who may be guilty of something and the people whose names just appear on a list.
Okay, so for example, let's say a Venn diagram. You've got Jeffrey Epstein in a circle and Donald Trump. Because there's an overlap in the middle, he must be a criminal. And they do that to any name that comes up, including your own.
Right.
But the reality is worlds come together, social circles, elite parties, whatever. It doesn't mean that anybody was a part of his private meetings or opportunities with these young people.
No, of course. No, I'm lucky because the woman who falsely accused me ultimately admitted before she committed suicide that she may have confused me with somebody else and misidentified me. The other woman admitted she made everything up. She told the New Yorker she made it all up in order to have something over Jeffrey Epstein. She ought to be in prison for that because she hurt the reputation of people for her own benefit. Other people have made fortunes of money on this, fortunes of money, millions and millions of dollars. Some of these people never even met Jeffrey Epstein. But because what happened is the estate wanted to settle, everybody who filed the complaint got settled with. And so there have been a lot of money made by lawyers. I'll give you an example. There's a lawyer named Brad Edwards who's been all over television. The TV doesn't mention that he was sanctioned by a federal judge. You know what it means to be sanctioned by a federal judge? That is a very serious matter. And when you have Brad Edwards on television, you must state that he was sanctioned by a federal judge for improperly accusing me. He was sanctioned. So we have to put that forward. It's not just enough for him to say, oh my God, I know this, I know that, I know the other thing. If you're evaluating his credibility, understand that a neutral federal judge sanctioned this man along with his co-counsel in the case. So we have to put out all the evidence. That's why from day one, I wanted every bit of evidence out there, every videotape, every document, everything out there, because the truth will only come from full and complete disclosure. This selective disclosure produces half-truths. And as we know, half-truths are sometimes even worse than full lies.
Okay. You said you saw nothing connecting Donald Trump to Epstein's crimes or fetishes. Lawyer David Schoen said he saw nothing linking Trump to Epstein's crimes. A lawyer went on CNN that represented 20 Epstein victims. He said he personally saw nothing that linked Trump to Epstein crimes. We now we know that they ran in similar circles, but does it feel like the mainstream media and maybe some Democrats, not all Democrats, are using this as a weapon against Donald Trump since he's the one in the Oval Office?
There's no question about that. And by the way, it's international. I was on a show in India, and they were trying to lie about Donald Trump. I stopped them. I was on a show in Russia, and they were trying to lie about Donald Trump. This has become a worldwide attempt to get Trump. You know, I wrote a book some years ago called Get Trump. And it's about these efforts to try to weaponize the legal system in order to achieve political goals. And you can also ask the question, why didn't the Biden administration look into this in the 4 years that this issue was an open issue when the Biden administration was there? So, you know, there's when you accuse, you have to look in the mirror too and ask yourself, did my side do the same thing that I'm accusing the other side of doing?
Yeah. I'm excited to share with you guys an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And get this, studies have confirmed that it has 3 times better, broader, and safer application than omega-3 fatty acids. Now, Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Venn Watson discovered C15 while working with the U.S. Navy to continually improve the health and welfare of aging dolphins, of all things, right? Now, C15 works in multiple ways. It repairs age-related damage to cells, protects from future breakdown, boosts mitochondrial energy output. You're going to have more energy, healthier cells. It activates pathways in the body that help regulate sleep, mood, and naturally repair mechanisms that support overall health. This functionality leads to a myriad of exciting benefits now and as we get older, namely improved metabolic, liver, and heart health, smoother functioning joints, deeper sleep, healthier hair, skin, and nails. You guys, this is so important. As you age, almost every doctor has told me to start taking fish oil pills in order to get the omega-3 in me, right? But now, Fatty 15, through the Navy and medicine, they discovered something that is 3 times more powerful. Fatty 15 is on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore long-term health. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Gardner and use code Gardner to get that discount. It's awesome. You guys are going to absolutely love it. You mentioned on the internet, maybe on your own YouTube channel, but that while you served as Jeffrey Epstein's legal counsel, that he had said to you, I don't care about my reputation. I don't care what's said about me. Once I'm dead, when you're dead, you're dead. I don't really care. Help me understand what he meant by all of that.
Well, I was sitting and talking to him one day when he was, obviously facing criminal prosecution. We were trying to make a deal with him. By the way, if he had ever worked for an intelligence agency, the first person he'd tell that would be me and the other lawyers to help him get a better deal. So he didn't work for an intelligence agency. But we were talking, and he said, Alan, you worry too much about your obituary. Once I'm dead, I'm dead. I don't care what people say about me, what people think about me after I'm dead. He says, I have no children. I have nobody to worry about. I'm just going to live my life, and dead is dead. It was shocking to me to hear him say that, but, that's what he said.
Okay. I have to imagine if nobody cares about their legacy, their reputation, any kind of maybe reckoning with a supreme being like God or something like that.
Believe me, Jeffrey Epstein didn't believe in God. He was not at all religious. Yeah.
So, but wouldn't that lend to somebody's willingness to take advantage of children? I mean, he obviously just cared about his own carnal pleasures.
Oh, yeah, no, I think he did. By the way, he was not a pedophile. Pedophile is defined as somebody who has sex with people under puberty. There's another term for people who have sex with slightly older adolescents. The evidence suggests that Epstein enjoyed sexual contact with 16, 17-year-olds, maybe 18-year-olds. By the way, he also, at least according to the evidence that I've seen, and Galilea Maxwell will know this, did not enjoy sexual intercourse. For him, it was touching and masturbation and that kind of thing. I don't know. I never saw him do anything improper, but when I was representing him, I had to ask him hard questions, and I had to ask other people hard questions. And I came away with the impression that he did like young adolescent girls, boyish looking girls who were 15 and 16 years old. There's some suggestion he may have been gay as well. We don't know the answer to that. There are suggestions about an improper relationship with Leslie Wexner. Again, we don't know the answers to these questions, but they're worth looking into. Why did Leslie Wexner make such an opportunity for him to have this big house in New York and the airplane? The money he made, did he make it from purely giving financial advice? Probably he did. He was very good, apparently, at saving people taxes. And when you're in that kind of bracket, saving taxes can mean hundreds of millions of dollars. So I understand that how he made his money. I don't think he ever engaged in actual extortion. And I'm sure he didn't work for the Mossad or for Israeli intelligence. He had no connections to Israel at all during the period of time. Later on, he became friendly with Ehud Barak. They had business dealings together, but that was just business.
Okay. You've got a new book coming out, but I have just a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that the U.S. government itself has made this man into a myth?
Yes.
And by that, I mean, we hear he trafficked hundreds of girls. It then sounds like on the other side of that, like the Mexican cartel human traffickers, that there must have been a buyer, but in reality, it may have just been victims for his own wants and needs.
There's no doubt that they were for his own wants and needs, maybe, conceivably. I mean, he's been accused of lending one of them to Prince Andrew and paying her $15,000 for a couple of hours of sex. I don't know whether any of that is true or not, but he was not a trafficker. I mean, he was not in the business of selling young women for property. He was not a trafficker. He was not a pedophile. Those two words are used. It's like Israel being accused of genocide. People throw those words around. They're absolutely meaningless. Genocide against Israel, trafficker. Traffic means that you are in the business of selling 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds who cross the Mexican border. That's not what he did. He enjoyed having happy ending massages, from everything I know, with 16, 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. That's terrible, and it's criminal, but it's not pedophilia, and it's not trafficking. So let's be careful about the use of language. I'm not trying to justify anything Epstein did. He was a criminal. He deserved to go to jail, and he probably would have been convicted had he remained alive for this more recent event. But let's be careful about the words we use.
Okay. Speaking of jail, you mentioned Galilea Maxwell earlier. She's met with Todd Blanche in the Department of Justice twice. I'm hearing she was fully cooperative. She told her story. She held nothing back. She never once pled the fifth. She complied. Now she's saying she would like Trump to consider commuting her sentence or a pardon. Do you think that will happen, or would that, just be more problematic for Trump?
I don't know. She's represented by one of the best lawyers in the country, my former student, David Oscar Marcus, who was with her when all this debriefing with Blanche took place. Blanche is also a very, 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 very professional lawyer. So we have a lot of professionals involved doing high-level work. My understanding is that she didn't ask for anything. She just proffered all this information And by the way, I'm sure she gave information that's subject to corroboration. That is not just one word, her word against somebody else's, but she knows where the records are. She knows where the travel records are. She probably has proof of who was on Epstein's island during the relevant time period. And so that information can be extremely useful. And normally, when the government gets information from somebody who's in prison, they generally give something back. I think it was, I don't remember if it was Abby Hoffman who once said, in the halls of justice, the only justice takes place in the halls. When there's plea bargaining, and that's what goes on here. Here we had, a conversation in a lawyer's office in Florida, and I would hope that there'd be some reward for her for waiving her Fifth Amendment rights, which she has, her lawyer-client rights, which she has, and giving information that could really end this. Because I think if you follow up on all of Galilea Maxwell's leads, you'll get to the bottom of this. Other than that, you're going to get the Geraldo Rivera situation. You remember when he claimed he had access to Al Capone's vault, and we all waited on pins and needles month after month, and finally it was live on television. They opened the vault. There was nothing in it. I'm not saying there's nothing in the Epstein vault. I'm saying that whatever is in it, we pretty much know about. I don't think we're going to learn more about any prominent people. I know the name of a couple of people who are accused. I don't know whether they're guilty or not, whose names have never been revealed because their lawyers went to court and got the information against them sealed. And that was the right thing for the lawyers to do for their clients. But I know that there is information out there that hasn't been revealed. But I don't know of any that involves important people. In fact, Bradley Edwards, the lawyer who was sanctioned by the judge, did say a few years ago on television that he's done 9 years of investigation and he doesn't think there are any prominent people involved whose names haven't yet been disclosed. This comes from the lawyer for the victim. So I think, although he has real credibility problems because he was sanctioned, I think you have to believe when he makes a statement like that there's nothing. I don't know whether he's contradicted that statement since, but the record will show that.
Okay. You've got a new book coming out, Trump to Harvard. Go fund yourself. Harvard to Trump. Let's make a deal. What's this book about?
Well, it's a cute title, and it has a very disturbing cartoon on the cover. It has a college student coming back from college with a Hitler mustache and haircut and wearing a Hamas shirt. And the parents say, "Son, your mother and I are concerned about how college has changed you." Colleges and universities are doing a terrible job in fomenting anti-Americanism, anti-Christianity, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and they have to be called to account for that. So I completely support the effort and attentions of the Trump administration to influence colleges the way I supported the Kennedy administration and the Johnson administration when they try to influence segregationist colleges in the 1950s. Now they've gone too far, though. I don't think they should be defunding cancer research or other pure scientific research. And I suspect, the subtitle of my book is Go Fund Yourself, Harvard to Trump, Let's Make a Deal, Who Will Win? I think in the end, we will all win if there's a deal. And if funding continues to Harvard and Columbia and other schools for their scientific research, but you have to cut off the funding to schools like the Harvard Divinity School, which has become a cesspool of anti-Semitism. It's tragic that in the name of Christianity, good Christianity, the Harvard Divinity School has become the Der Stürmer of current America. They are the most anti-Semitic institution that I know of in any institution. The dean of the school compared Israel to Nazi Germany. The valedictorian who was allowed to speak at the graduation, valedictorian, was somebody who was arrested for assaulting Jewish students. And that's the Divinity School. It's a disgrace. And no money should go to the Divinity School or the Harvard School of Public Health. They not only tolerate anti-Semitism, they teach it. They are part of it. They're not the solution, they're the problem. So I hope there'll be a settlement, but the settlement has to take into account the bad schools. Now, Harvard Business School is fine. Harvard Law School is pretty good. Not perfect. They recently gave a scholarship to one of the people who also assaulted Jewish students. But it's better than others, and it varies department to department. The science is superb, and it shouldn't be cut back. So we need targeted cutting of funding and targeted defunding and targeted denial of visas, not general. They've painted with too broad a brush so far.
Okay. Yeah, Trump seems to come in with a bat and end with a scalpel. So I hope we'll get that deal and things can keep moving forward. Alan, I'm going to put a direct link to your YouTube channel, your X, and also your new book so that people can check it out. I know you've got more books in you. You've got a goal. And I appreciate you giving me your time. I'm going to put those direct links down below. What is your exact YouTube channel? Is it just your name?
Just my name, and you can get it on Rumble. You can get it on YouTube. I have a podcast every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 5:30 that people can tune into. I talk a lot about Trump. I talk a lot about the Middle East. I talk a lot about Epstein. I talk about everything that's current, and I give a legal perspective, a constitutional perspective, and sometimes a personal perspective.
Okay, great. Well, I'll put those direct links down below. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Hey, you had great questions. I really enjoyed the interview. Thank you so much for having me.